Stock of the day. There's a lot coming out at the moment. This morning, Nufarm updated the markets and reported the stock falling the most in 1.5 years on a pretty bleak outlook. The company telling shareholders at the AGM today that as a result of challenging conditions in crop protection, it now expects earnings to be less skewed towards first half than previously indicated, but added it expects the group to return to growth in the second half of fiscal 2024. Grady, Nufarm's had a good couple of months, climbing back out of that trough that we see there. What did you think of the update today and the stock itself at the moment?
Now, the update wasn't unexpected, and I'm actually expecting this across a lot of different companies heading into the second half of 2020 or FY24, because cost inflation is still a thing, high input costs is still a thing, and with the agricultural sector in general and overall, it's very determined by demand and crops and weather and a lot of different factors at play, and so it's actually a really hard sector to operate in. So I'm not actually too concerned about this. It was kind of expected, but the company itself makes a lot of revenues from its omega-3 canola, which meets a lot of demand at the moment, especially with a push in the ESG front for reduction in consumption of fish. And so we've got this alternative. It's the world's only producer of canola with omega-3 in it. So we actually really like this company. It's not a massive downer for us today, this update. And again, their FY23 results were great. It was ahead of Bell Potter expectations. So we actually have a buy rating on them. Shares are down 12% over the last 5 years and down 5% over the last year. But we just definitely see it as a buy, like a buy-in opportunity. And that's what Bell Potter's analyst said. So inventory overhang and higher cost of goods is what they blamed their first half performance on. So I'm sure they're not alone, and I'm expecting a lot of companies across different sectors to come through with this exact update soon.
Okay. Howard, what do you think? Do you think it's a buying opportunity?
Well, put it this way, for my sins, probably about 20 years ago, I owned Nufarm shares.
Right.
That's before I got a little bit wiser through being around a little bit longer.
I can sense a bit of investor remorse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Howard.
And I think I paid about $7.50 and landed up selling them for about $5. And several years later, not several weeks later.
Yeah.
And the beautiful story with Nufarm I discovered is every time they made a half-yearly report, a yearly report, or had an AGM, the word challenging appeared in it.
Right.
Now, my experience of businesses that keep referring to things as challenging, what it says is they don't run the business terribly well.
Right.
And this is a very difficult industry, as Grady pointed out, to be in. There are a lot of things outside of your control. So you've got to be a genius business person to run this well. And they clearly haven't been the collection of CEOs.
It's an ag stock, isn't it? Agricultural stock, which brings its own level of
weather,
complications.
Floods, droughts, all these sort of things into it. So, if I look back on it, it must be 20 years ago roughly that I owned it. Its share price is about the same today.
Right.
If you took the same amount of money, I don't remember what I did with the money that I sold Nufarm for, but I put it into something else. Whatever else I put it into in 20 years, it's probably today at least 10 times or 20 times my original money.
Right.
I mean, at 15% growth per annum over 20 years, it would be 4 to 6, so 16 to 30 odd times the size. At 20%, it'd be 38 times the value. And this hasn't hardly moved. If anything, it's gone backwards.
Okay.
So whenever I look at Nufarm, I think bad news. And it doesn't pass our filters. Its return on equity
mentally
is low.
scarred.
Yeah, and its return on equity is low. There's nothing about it that anybody in TeamInvest would get excited about.
All right. Okay.
This is why we work well, Howard.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of the call, because everyone on the panel is different, but it gives investors an insight into different ways of thinking, which is what I love.